Hi, my name is Vanessa Lack, and it has been almost 2 months since I did any kind of video, podcast, anything at all for my basically what I would call my personal vlog slash blog that I've got on YouTube and on Rumble and on LinkedIn and what many other things. And I'm doing this impromptu video with very low production value, as you can see in my not the greatest camera and built in my computer, and no external microphone and no perks of any kind, because I'm like, if I don't do a live right now with the impromptu, low production value and all, it's never going to get done at this point. Like, it could be 6 months to a year before I do another one. And that is not okay, because the information I have to share today is too important to be put off forever and never get out there. I've got a lot of different topics I want to cover. So it's going to be probably a pretty lengthy live. I'm hopefully will be done with this in under an hour, but I'm not holding my breath here. Okay, so basically the first thing I want to share, so to get right to it, is this right here. So this is my LinkedIn profile that you're seeing right here. That right there is with the little, let me see. There we go. There you go. I'm circling my headshot there on LinkedIn, my profile. And this right here is called Hunter 7 Foundation. And basically it is an organization, and they're on have a very strong LinkedIn presence, and they've got a lot of great content and posts that they share that's super relevant to the military. I share a lot of their posts as of late because they're so relevant. Anyways, all right, before I get to that, I guess I'll go ahead and just remove that for a second and kind of get back to the information. So there's basically a former service member, subsequent, he was exposed to basically toxins. I think it was the burn pits, if I'm not mistaken. I watched a lot of the newscast that were of him being interviewed about this. And basically, my memories of what he was saying was that he was exposed to toxins through burn pits through his military deployments in the Middle East, and subsequently developed chronic and then eventually terminal condition because of that. I do believe it was colon cancer. And by the way, if I'm wrong on any of these details, I'm just gonna apologize in advance. I'm gonna get to my next point about that as well, which is that there is enough news coverage, which is why I'm all about veterans coming up. You know, full turkey community is the issues in the news media that actually pertain to them, and to make things better because of hardships that aren't covered. I'm always grateful to the media when they are covered. Yeah. Okay, so basically Wesley was not diagnosed in time to diagnosis or have any chance of that. And his illness, terminal illness, he has passed away just in the last number of days, is my understanding. I read somewhere it was just last Sunday. And so his passing, his death was imminent because of his prognosis. He, my understanding, had a lawsuit against of some kind, or some kind of claim for medical malpractice against Veterans Health Administration. And that claim was successful, but it was a long, hard battle fought. Um, I believe that the money recovered is around $3 million. We have to keep in mind there's legal fees and lawyer costs, which I can only imagine how much that ate up of it. Not to mention the extreme emotional, excruciating toll it takes on people going through these legal battles of any kind, but especially against some administration. If you followed me closely, you know I've had my own battles and continue to with Veterans Health Administration now as a patient, but formerly when I worked for them and my civil rights and whistleblower rights were violated repeatedly. And there was never any justice or accountability for any of that. And I spent over 5 years fighting in a legal realm, going basically nowhere. And I realized the hard way that this just isn't a priority for the powers to be, or, the politicians that control the federal government regarding upholding civil rights. So that was a horrific ordeal to go through. And so I have nothing but empathy, sympathy, and the deepest condolences for anyone who is at war, in any legal situation, any complaint, or whatever, being victimized by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. I have, whether it's someone who works there or who's a patient or some other connection, like I just have nothing but empathy and sympathy for them. And anyone who has any success, to include the late Leslie Black and his family, I against Veterans Health Administration, I am just so in awe of, because it's feels to me like next to impossible to obtain any justice or measure of accountability against this organization at all. And that's a lot because of the way there's laws basically regarding civil litigation and potential liability, protections that Veterans Administration has that like no non federal entity has. Like, no one in the civilian world has that level of protection. Well, some would argue actually differently, because of different laws I'm worried about with some civilian stuff. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. Not aware of having good law school. So, anyways, but I'm gonna go ahead and share the post. So I'm gonna read it. So this is a Hunter Seven Foundation. It's on LinkedIn. They've got a either how he passed away, um, that he has been in a firefighter, served 2 tours of combat in Afghanistan and Iraq, that led to 15. Um, and then they go on to detail problems and doc and his diagnosis, where he's talking about also, how he's from Vermont, and one of his peers, widow June Heston, who's the wife of Brigadier General Michael Heston, who passed away from pancreatic cancer. I actually did a video just dedicated partial that from what I recall. So you can look that on my YouTube, I believe my Rumble podcast. It's covers that about his really harrowing plight essentially, if and his family's plight as well, that went through this ordeal with him and his as well. It was obviously harrowing and horrible. And I covered that at length in media for video and podcasts as well. So check that out if you want to learn more about that. I'm gonna expose these different toxins kind of listed here. There's a list. It's a lot of stuff. And also, you know, basically anyone that was deployed to the Middle East and exposed to toxins and burn pits, it seems like they could absolutely be at risk. This was him right here, the man that passed away. So this is his picture. Okay, for that for a while now, and I had not gotten to it because I just haven't been on here. I think that I'm gonna have to start doing impromptu, kind of spur of the moment videos like this moving forward in order to have any chance of even posting at all for basically this vlog that I'm doing slash blog, because it's just become a really time consuming and quite frankly expensive hobby, if you will. And speaking of which, I want to point out, because I never do this. This is the link that you're seeing on the screen. If you're listening to the podcast, it's anchor.fm/hello Vanessa media/support. So I'm a big fan of podcasts and media, and I actually use this link, not this specific link, but other people's links to support their podcasting efforts and media efforts for podcasts that I enjoy listening to because I'm really a big fan of the indie movement of independent voices basically out in the world to provide information that I never would receive otherwise and knowledge and whatnot. So if you like the work that I'm doing, if you enjoy it, I know that a number of you said that you do, then please consider going to this link here and you could support. It's a subscription basically, and you can cancel it anytime. Anchor, the company, they handle it. And I currently have active subscription and have in the past active subscriptions for different podcasts I support. So FYI, I currently don't have any merchandise or anything. I have some different ideas what merchandise I might do, but right now this is something I want to put out there for those of you that are interested. All right, so the next topic I want to get to is okay, so Veterans Day is coming up, and so I think this is a very timely broadcast to be doing as it's November 9th right now. Um, so I have this email that I meant to share within the last couple of months and haven't gotten to, so I'm just gonna have to do it off my memory. It came from Veterans Health Administration. It basically said, and I'd been told this over the phone, but I'd never received it in writing before. They like to keep things out of writing at Veterans Health Administration because they're sneaky like that. Anyways, and it said that basically the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Health Administration location that they're avoiding authorizing um services, healthcare services outside their facilities that they can provide inside their facilities, basically, even if the veteran wants to be seen outside. A veteran like myself, for example, which is how I found out about this. And so, this, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, I'm in law school, but this, in my opinion, is in direct contrast to veterans law that emphasizes choice, veterans' choice laws that they have in place now. Um, and there's a lot of latitude for veterans to be able to choose where, when, and who provides their healthcare these days. However, Veterans Health Administration is continuing to actively fight against that. And that email I have really reiterates what I already knew to be true. You know, the reality is there's a lot of talk about the well being of veterans, to say the very least. And one of the things that could be done to protect the well being and the lives of veterans is to enact new legislation and to enforce legislation that would divert the money that is going in part to Veterans Health Administration to other options that would empower veterans to choose where eligible veterans to choose who provide when, where, and who provides their health care, period. I see so much innovation and efficiency in these wonderful new tech companies that are actually getting involved in healthcare and telehealth in particular, with regard to mental health in particular. I am such a huge fan of these companies, and the level of efficiency that I see is phenomenal to me. And I don't see that in Veterans Health Administration. I see Veterans Health Administration as being an organization that not only is immune from any kind of accountability and justice, in large part, in my humble opinion, but also is very brazen in their behavior and their choice to continue to just do whatever they want with all the money they're being given from the generous American taxpayers. And I'm in direct opposition to that. You know, there needs to be accountability, there needs to be justice. And one of the things that needs to happen is that it needs to be opened up to where the people that they're supposed to be serving the military community can actually be held accountable in all ways possible. I've said this before, I'm saying it again. All this stuff of immunity, you know, that they're getting and how hard it is to hold people accountable. It's just ridiculous to me. I had an outage just now, so wonderful. You gotta love the whole great things about technology and the rough things when you have outages. Anyway, so I'm back. But basically, I just want to see a different system where veterans that are eligible for these services can and will receive the healthcare they need, basic or complex, when, where, and who they want it to be provided by instead of the system that we currently have, which gobbles up tons of cash for the American taxpayers and is a hugely inefficient system. And I'm dealing with it right now. It's been upwards of a year that I've been fighting to get the most basic of services, even though I'm eligible for those really basic healthcare services. And, every turn it's fight. Like right now, like literally, I'm waiting to hear back again from Veterans Health Administration for something that should have already been addressed and dealt with. And so there are excellent people that work at, the Veterans Affairs and Veterans Health Administration, but there's a lot of people that shouldn't be there as well. And the system that's currently in place does not ensure accountability at all or justice at all. Quite the opposite. And it's super, super frustrating. And for those of us that have dealt with it or are dealing with it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to my next thing here that I've been wanting to share. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen. And I'm already like 16 minutes into this, tech issues and all. So I want to go ahead and get to that and share this information. So give me a second here. Gotta gotta see how I can do this. Um, okay. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is basically a survey to me by the US Department of Veterans Affairs Veterans Benefits Administration. And that's something that the mainstream news really doesn't understand, that there is three distinct arms of Veterans Administration. In no particular order, you got VHA, Veterans Health Administration, VBA, Veterans Benefits Administration, and then the Cemetery Division. All right, my really issues lie with Veterans Health Administration these days more than anywhere else. Now, they all have issues, specifically Veterans Benefits Administration with their paperwork. Their main job is to deal with paperwork. And my God, these people are not very good with paperwork. This I know for sure. But I see more signs of improvement over the last 5 to 7 years with Veterans Benefits Administration, VBA, with regard to their handling of customer service and paperwork than I see improvement in Veterans Health Administration. In fact, even though change has been forced through legislation towards the Veterans Health Administration, VHA, it is still such a hot mess. And it's a matter of life or death for many of these veterans, that have the just really poor health situation and prognosis going on. And, I am advocating here for change and really using my voice because not all veterans are as fortunate as me to even be able to have the capacity and the ability to do that. And, with Veterans Day coming up just a couple of days away, this is a really stark reminder for me, especially of the news of Wesley Black's passing, that I really need to do my part here and really need to advocate for change. And I encourage each and every one of you to do what you can to positively advocate for change and to hopefully we can bring about legislation that brings about meaningful change, and so that we can stop being a captive audience to veteran. Okay, sorry about that. My internet cut out again, so I'm trying a different internet option. Hopefully that one won't cut out. Gotta love the tech issues. Anyways, I have a dream that one day I won't have to deal with Veterans Health Administration VHA at all. That no veteran will be subjected to that if they choose not to be, and they'll be able to just go to get their health care wherever. I am very concerned about the managed healthcare. Let me just go ahead and while I'm talking managed healthcare aspect of all of this. The reality is that managed care organizations are not like real super friendly to patients that need healthcare. Quite the opposite. In my experience, there's a lot of the whole denial of claims and insurance companies and all that drama. So I have a fear of that being the newest thing. But what I've seen is Veterans Health Administration, my direct experience, will happily deny care, healthcare, even if the person's eligible. Like I've been through this. Um, And I mean, I've even written letters and stuff and pretty much been laughed at by Veterans Health Administration staff and stuff. Like, I mean, if you could see some of these emails I've gotten in the context of them, people would just be blown away. And the reputation of Veterans Health Administration really precedes it. You know, I was speaking with a couple of different healthcare providers recently, and one was just laughing because of the how ludicrous Veterans Health Administration is, and what a bad reputation they've earned, and how inept so much of the healthcare services really are that they're providing. They have a huge recruitment retention issue. They have a huge competence issue with in certain of their practicing specialties and departments. I know because I'm a patient there. I've dealt with this. You know, there are excellent people at work there. People are very competent at work there. A lot of people helping veterans at work there. And then there's, you know, the people that don't. Um, oh, thanks for the comment, Benny. Appreciate that. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to because my internet has cut out a couple of times. So not sure. I'm kind of talking a lot. Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get to the next point though, so I can move on because I'm already at 21 minutes of streaming, tech issues and all. And I want to make sure I'm able to cover as much as I possibly can. So this is the email that I got. I screenshotted it from US Department of Veterans Affairs, Veterans Benefits Administration. You gotta love this whole like estimated burden thing. That was a law that was passed by some politicians many years ago. I forget what year, and you could tell that that politician clearly had a pet peeve about paperwork, government paperwork in particular. And so now on these government forms, if you have one to fill out, they always require the form to have what the estimated burden time frame would be. And this one is 4 minutes is the estimated time burden to complete it. And I just find that to be comical but ludicrous again with the government. I don't really know, and I don't think it help to alleviate the paperwork burden, but now there's just more bureaucracy and red tape when they put the paperwork out to let you know how many minutes of your time they think it might take you to fill it out. Like, come on, get real. Okay, so these are the questions. This is from Veterans Benefits Administration, National Call Center. They handle basically, they're the line to handle anything, like you name it. Like it could be a home loan, it could be GI Bill, it could be absolutely anything, things I'm not even thinking of. And so these questions are very generic that are being asked, and some of them are kind of pigeonholed for certain things that may not even apply to the person's call at all. I know in my case they didn't, for example. Um, but I really do love these questions and surveys because somebody needs to anything that can be done to ensure any kind of accountability or move in that direction, I'm all for it. Okay. All right, so the information provided by the phone representative was explained in terms I could understand. And so the scale is number 1 is strongly disagree, then there's 2, 3, 4, and 5 is strongly agree, and then everything in between. This call was very positive. In fact, VBA, Veterans Benefits Administration, National Phone Call Center, I really don't have problems with them like 90 something percent of the time. They're actually quite nice to me, quite respectful and very helpful and to the point. And I really appreciate that. It didn't used to be that way. You know, back in my day, yes, I feel like I'm 100 years old when I say that. It was quite different. It was, you good luck being not told off. You know, it was really rough. And good luck getting through to someone and getting your questions answered. It used to be very rough, but things have improved. Okay, so the phone representative answered my question on the issue I recently called about is another question. Next question, the phone representative treated me with courtesy and respect. Next question is the length of time it took to get connected to a phone representative was reasonable. The information provided during the call helped me feel better that I have a better understanding of my issue and next steps. I am satisfied with the service I received for the VBA National Call Center. I trust the VA to fulfill our country's commitment to veterans. Okay, so on all the questions that were asked, I put very high ratings in a positive direction because that was my truthful experience, except for this one. This one I put strongly disagree. I in no way, shape, or form trust the VA to fulfill our country's commitment to veterans at all. Not one bit, especially not Veterans Health Administration, the VHA. I don't trust the VHA for 1 second. And I have informed these people in writing, by the way, that I deeply resent their involvement in any of my healthcare decisions whatsoever. And I have been successful to some extent of outsourcing my healthcare, but that actually brings me to my next point, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, actually, I'm gonna talk about it now, so don't forget. So basically, what I've learned is that the VHA, Veterans Health Administration, at least in my neck of the woods, has a very weak network for community providers. So what that means basically is the healthcare providers, doctors, whoever in the community, healthcare providers, there's not that many of them in the network. And there's some different issues going on with that. And so I think the reason is because some of you may or may not remember, there was a time period where the Veterans Health Administration did a fantastic job of, in my humble opinion, sabotaging the partnership, which is like an insurance network of healthcare providers for veterans in the community by not paying them. There's also issues with evidently overpayments in some cases, but there was a huge to do about these people not getting paid and there being outstanding bills to these healthcare providers for services rendered that were not reimbursed for. Most healthcare providers are just small businesses trying to survive and get by in these communities. And so not being paid is a serious issue. Because of that, my understanding is a number of these healthcare providers discontinued providing services really across the country at these different VAs and veterans, VHAs, Veterans Health Administrations for veterans. And that basically did not return to the network in a number of cases. Also, there were other issues, a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy with conflict with healthcare providers, between healthcare providers and basically Veterans Affairs organization in some way, shape, or form. And so there was a lot of mismanagement going on, which shouldn't be a shocker that Veterans Affairs has a tendency to mismanage things, Veterans Health Administration for sure. So because of that, there's less options than there could have been. And yeah, it's just a difficult situation. And I no way, shape, or form blame the healthcare providers in the community for that. I blame Veterans Health Administration and I blame our politicians for allowing Veterans Health Administration to sabotage what could have been a better option for veterans. And they continue to do that. I've got an email showing they don't want to let veterans have a choice about their healthcare. They want to have a captive audience. Okay, so back to this VBA, Veterans Benefits Administration survey. So here's some more of the questions that were asked. Let me get back to it. All right. So the information provided by the phone representative was explained in terms I could understand. This is very repetitive, and I don't know why they're asking the same questions over and over. But basically, the scale, let's see, it's about the same, it looks like. No, I think they actually do ask different questions. So some of the examples of the options you could choose from is the representative listened to my concerns. The representative provided the same update as my previous phone call. The representative made me feel understood. And it says thing about the representative, so I'm just cut that out. Clear and used in an appropriate tone. Provided explanations I could understand. Okay, next one. Um, and then it basically just asks questions in great detail about the phone call to the Veterans Benefits Administration National Call Center. Again, this is a call line that handles you name it issues about, it could be homo, it could be GIBO, it could be anything. So very, you know, um, a lot of different issues. So these are more questions about the call. So these are the kinds of questions that were asked. If you're watching the video, you can see this right now. If you're listening to podcasts, you won't be able to see it. And I'm not going to read it every single one because it's kind of repetitive. It's the same thing over and over and over again. I will say the menu at the VBA is a total nightmare, the phone menu to get through. So I'm sure if I had an opportunity to let them know about that, I did. I don't think I did though in this questionnaire. All right, and so then that's it. And so there's the finish button right here, and then it gets submitted. So this I know, and this is the screen that I saw when I finished up with it. So basically, this is a situation where I've actually seen these surveys before. I haven't always filled them out, although I feel like I should because you can't complain if you don't vote, so to speak. And this is the way I see of voting. Um, And I'm also I feel like this is a way of voting by speaking publicly about these issues because it's like if I don't, I'm just another crotchety veteran complaining about Veterans Affairs, and there's only so much of that that can be taken. You got to really get out there and have your voice heard. That's how I see it. Okay, so that's what I did. I will tell you another thing I want to say about that is that they do expire in my direct experience. The surveys do. So if I don't fill them out in a certain period of time, they will expire out of my inbox. And when I click on it, the link will no longer work. So I've had that happen before. So FYI, if you receive one of these, something you may want to keep in mind if you're really invested in filling it out. But I do like the digital one. I don't like paper. I don't like big paper survey packets. I find them to be irritating. All right. All right. So another thing I want to share about while I'm at it today is going to be about Lula Rich. This is something I've been wanting to briefly cover that definitely has to do with the military community in some way, shape, or form. Um, I watched so Lula Rich. I'm about to pull up the screen and share it so you can see what I'm talking about here. But it's basically a docu-series that was featured on Amazon Prime about LuLaRoe. You may or may not be familiar with them. LuLaRoe was slash is a company that sells leggings that were known as buttery soft. Yes, that's a real thing. Like everybody and their mother was saying that. And it is a multi-level marketing company, MLM. It's very controversial. There have been many lawsuits about the company. There was a big one involving Washington State that's now resolved. They've been in the news media so much. It's just like it's the coverage has been phenomenal. And they also were all over social media. It's a predominantly female crowd that were buying and selling the clothing basically, which largely did focus on leggings from what I saw. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen. So let me try to hold on. I'm adjusting my situation here. Okay, so this is basically the home page of it, and you're kind of seeing the preview right now of the um the docu-series. As you can see, there's almost 5,000 reviews of Lula Rich. And I binge watched this within 2-3 days, which maybe isn't the definition of binge watching. I don't know. But then I watched it again and again and again and again. Why, you may ask? I think I'm fascinated by the topic of MLMs. I'm fascinated by Lula Rich or Lula Rose, sorry, now the docuseries Lula Rich. I'm fascinated by the women that were recruited into selling it. Multi-level marketing companies, you may or may not know, do impact the military community, specifically on these military bases. As you may or may not know, military spouses are largely struggling with employment issues because of the military lifestyle that uproots them, moves them, and is very disruptive to people's lives. This is largely unrecognized and unaddressed. There are countless issues with getting, I've done a whole video podcast on this. The licenses, professional licenses recognized in different states, despite all the political mumbo jumbo saying it's no longer an issue. It's an issue. Okay. I have dealt with this firsthand for many, 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 many years. It's a miracle that I have even made it this far professionally because there are so many challenges and obstacles for military spouses to overcome. As a result, the reason I'm mentioning this is that military spouses, a lot of times I've seen firsthand, will turn to multi-level marketing companies in an effort to have some kind of financial opportunity, career, whatever. In my direct experience, I've never seen it work out for military spouse, not one time. There's military spouse focused on here in Lula Rich, and I forget what episode she shows up in. I can't quite remember, but she does show up, and she was out of the military base, formerly known as Fort Lewis, now known as Joint Base Lewis and McChord. And evidently, she was one of the first people selling the leggings, clothing, and evidently did quite well as a result of that. And it's really detailed in great lengths. I know as a fact of the community I'm in right now, the military community I'm in right now, that there are military spouses involved in one or more MLMs for sure. I know this for sure. And I have a lot of empathy for them because I know how hard it is to sustain any kind of career, professional identity whatsoever. And MLMs are a place that military spouses will frequently turn to. So this is a very controversial docuseries. If you look at the reviews, you will see people loving it and you'll see people hating it for their own personal reasons, I'm sure. Um, I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars, 5 being the highest, because I think there was some room for improvement in the docuseries. However, it was well done, high production value, unlike my live today. Um, and some good information. I just would have liked to learn more about the business side of it. They focused a lot on kind of some their own slants, if you will, on it. That's my opinion, the people that created this. But I would have liked to see more about the business side of it. That would have been of interest to me. But, they tried. I'm gonna try to show you the trailer to see if I can bring that up.
I love white people to death just being on a boat in the middle of nowhere. I'll see y'all when y'all get back.
Okay, that was goodness. That was the end of the preview. Let me see if I try to pull up the whole preview.
I love white people to death just being on a.
Okay, let me see.
LuLaRoe.
What the hell? LuLaRoe, what is that?
We are creating confidence and security. I had achieved the dream. I was selling magic leggings.
This is a huge.
Okay, so the picture that they just showed of that one woman just now, I'm pretty sure that was a military spouse. I recognized her face. All right. She's a former military spouse now. She's divorced, by the way.
Opportunity in America. Women were selling bread.
Okay, that was the woman again. She's the one from Joint Base Lewis McChord, formerly Fort Lewis, former military spouse. She was a military spouse when she was recruited and selling the LuLaRoe. So she's no longer a representative or a consultant, whatever they call them now.
Afford startup costs.
And it just became a circus. Mark starts spouting off passages from the Book of Mormon.
A mass delusion.
Oh my God, I'm in a cult.
Did any of them ever run a company of this size? No.
What is this real story of LuLaRoe?
We want to see women succeed.
That's where the business started. There's magic in the air. But most people have not sold anything.
There became a push to put off a successful image. Deanne says, I got the weight loss surgery. I can hook you up. What the
They wanted them to drink Kool-Aid. Let's just shower people with events. In 14 months, we experienced $2 billion worth of growth.
They're using cheap language of feminism.
We were empowered, and then the husband was supposed to take over.
What inspired the empowerment of women for you?
All right, so that picture that was just shown was the military spouse, again, that I'm mentioning, that was featured heavily in the production of this.
Can I jump in there and then you can talk?
85% of the sixth floor was their family.
We show up every day and say what problems need to be solved.
The whole house smelled like dead fart leggings.
Little did I know this was going to end up looking like a penis.
It's the definition of a pyramid scheme.
How many lawsuits have been filed? It's dozens.
The question is, what did you want out of it?
You have to be the boss. I'm going to lose my house. It seemed too good to be true. And it was.
I did turn down the cruise. I love white people to death just being on a boat in the middle of nowhere. I'll see y'all when y'all get back.
Okay, so that was basically the entire preview there of LuLaRoe. So interesting show, basically docuseries about LuLaRoe. Definitely relevant to the military community and military spouses and what they go through, some of them, with regard to employment. I have been in the military community in some way, shape, or form since I was basically my entire life. My family members were in the military. I was in the military. Still got a family member in the military. And I've talked to countless people, spouses and stuff, and most of them, 90 something percent, I would say, struggle with employment related issues. And that's how a number of these people end up in multi-level marketing companies, because they believe it's a business in a box, is some of the lingo I've heard. They believe that they'll be their own boss, they'll be able to work from home. A lot of these people are women, a lot of these women have kids, and they believe this is a very appealing option to solve their financial problems. Many of these military families have substantial financial issues. And it is a really big struggle for them as a result of that. And so I was excited to see this docuseries come out. Watched it a bunch. You may find it interesting, you may not. Definitely offers a different perspective, all about perspectives and whatnot. So this live has been going on for 40 minutes, tech issues and all. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I can't remember if there was anything else that I wanted to cover. It's been almost 2 months since I went live, but this is it. So I'm going to try to do more, probably do more impromptu video / podcast. I'm going to try to get the podcast up just immediately right now, because if I don't, I know it probably won't happen. I've got a bunch of podcasts just backlogged that I haven't posted, but I did post the videos. This is on YouTube and Rumble as well. Check out the Rumble. It's another video platform many of you may not have heard of. If you like the content that I provide, if you want to support my efforts to try to do this more, because this has become like a very expensive, time consuming hobby, equipment and all, this is a link where you can go to that. Anchor, the company, manages it. I support podcasters through Anchor's subscription links for their podcasts. So if you're interested, please check it out. It's option 2 where you can cancel at any time as well. So I actively support other podcasters because I value independent voices. In the meantime, I just want to show you, as I'm closing out here, this is all the different places where you can find this content. So obviously all podcasting platforms, YouTube, Rumble, LinkedIn. So that is it for today, guys. I wish you all the best. Thanks for watching. Bye.